Alright guys, hey, welcome to Gerald's Movie Rush. I am Gerald. I am super excited though, guys. I hope you guys really enjoyed Spiritual Week. It's been a lot of fun. I've had a lot of fun doing it. Hope you guys enjoyed it too as well. And the movie we're going to do tonight, of course, which you guys voted on, of course, is the movie What Dreams May Come. Yes, this movie right here. I love this movie though. And guys, I have a very, very special guest with me tonight though, who's going to help me with this beautiful movie review, of course. My lovely, talented, beautiful wife, Emanuelle.
Hello, everybody! Surprise! Gerald asked me to come and help with this movie because there's so many spiritual aspects in that movie, and he wanted me to kind of maybe bring some light onto what was accurate and what is not, according to my spiritual team. So, ta-da! Here I am.
Yay!
I hope you guys are happy with that, but I'm going to let him do his thing first and talk about the movie.
Yes, guys, I really like this movie, What Dreams Come True. It's a very, very beautiful film, though. Of course, it has Robin Williams in the movie, of course, who plays Chris in the movie, who is basically a dad who's a doctor, and he has two beautiful children and a wife in the movie. And along the way, his two children die in a horrific car accident, though. And it basically leaves a real difficult, trying time on his and his wife's marriage. And they see kind of the struggles they have to go through in their relationship, and you know. And then along the way, of course, I think it was about 4 years later, Chris, of course, Robin Williams' character, dies in the movie, though, also in a car accident. Irony, huh? Go figure. And along the way, when he dies, at first he doesn't realize he's dead, though. And along the way, he meets this character who calls himself Albert in the movie, who's played by Cuba Gooding Jr., of course. And at first, when he first sees him, he's very vague. He's very faded. He can't really see him really clearly in the movie. It's because he really hasn't come to terms yet with whether or not he's alive or he's dead or not. But then eventually, once along the way, he starts realizing he's no longer dead anymore, of course, in the movie. And then, of course, Albert starts showing him that, you know, he shows him how to create all these beautiful worlds and this beautiful atmosphere. And at first, he takes him to the place where the house he created for him and his wife, though. And it's kind of like when you see the first time, though, Robin Williams' character, he sees like this, like it's almost like a painting almost, and all these beautiful images that he's seeing, though, which is really, really incredible. The visual effects are just absolutely amazing in this film, though. It's so beautifully done. And there's one part in the movie where he goes to this tree, but he had never seen this tree before, though, because it's a tree that his wife was painting that in the real world, in the physical form. And even Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character, sorry, got a little tongue-tied there. Sorry about that, guys.
It happens.
Yeah, it happens. And basically, he sees this big tree. It's like got like these blue kind of like leaves, kind of flowers on them. And even he's surprised when he sees it, though. And it's like that. And basically, Robin would tell you is like, see, they were connected. He said, and me and my wife were really spiritually connected to each other. And he can't even understand why this is happening, though, which makes it even more interesting, though, because it really shows you that, you know, even though we have passed on, that we can still be connected to the people in the physical world as well, too, even in the afterlife, which makes it really, really beautiful to see, you know. So along the way, he kind of experiences this journey, and along the way, he's realizing that some of the people he's meeting, though, are not who they seem to be, of course. And of course, along the way, he meets his this lady named Lalona in the movie, who's Asian. And she kind of takes him on this journey. She kind of takes him to this different world where there's like people flying around, and there's like this whole city, which is just beautifully, the visual is just amazing in it. And he kind of takes him on this boat. And along the way, he starts realizing, though, that that woman is more than who she seems, though. And he realizes the girl he sees, though, is his daughter. But he doesn't really connect to it, though, until he starts seeing like memories of his flashbacks. Like when he's in the bedroom when his daughter's very sick and they're playing chess. And he sees the artist that was in her bedroom. And then he puts two and two together and realizes that it's his daughter, though. Which I think is a very, very beautiful moment in the movie. I even cried when I saw that moment in the movie. It was really a touching, really deep moment that I felt, though. you know, because he was really reconnecting with someone he lost in his path from his child, you know, and it really, you could tell it really affected him, you know, because at first when he first gets to the afterlife, the only thing he's really worried about is how his wife is feeling, really, you know, because he's all alone, because he's dead and his kid are dead, and he doesn't know how she's going to survive without them in her life, you know. So along the way, he starts realizing, though, that he has to disconnect a little bit to his wife, though, and start realizing that his children are important to him too, though, because it's what made him who he was in his life, you know. And then along the way, he starts realizing, though, that his wife, of course, has passed on too as well, because Albert tells him in Wiki Balloon Character that his wife had passed on. And he's really excited because he's finally saying, I'm going to get to see my wife, I'm going to be reminded of our families. But then he starts realizing, though, what Albert tells us, his wife committed suicide in the movie. And of course, how they explain it in the film, though, is that suicides go to a different place. They don't go to the same place as a person who normally dies normally. You know, they go kind of to like their like hell, or their own kind of version of hell. And it's up to him to try and rescue and save his wife, though, from the hell that she created for herself, or the hell she went to. And along the way, of course, he meets this guy, of course, who's a very older, elderly man. I think the character is, I think it's played by Christopher Plummer. Am I mistaken? Yes. And along the way, he basically goes to him and says, listen, I want to be able to get my wife back and help her and pull her back from the hell she's in. But he tells him, well, this is a very dangerous journey, because why? Because she doesn't realize that she's in her own hell that she created for herself, though. Because she hasn't been able to let go of what happened. Because in her mind, once you die, everyone disappears, basically. They're no longer there anymore. And he basically goes with him and Cuba Gooding Jr. and they basically go to this environment, this hell, or whatever you want, however you want to look at it. And basically along the way, you see these skulls are walking on. Basically, these people, all their heads down, like this dirt, and they're walking on people. And he's like, ah! And this river of water, you see people like reaching up and grabbing them and trying to pull them under, and like that stuff. So it's really, really creepy, but it's also very interesting too, because it gives you a really different aspect of where he was at before and where he's at now, trying to get his wife back, of course. And it makes it really interesting and really complex and dynamic. But along the way, though, when he's realizing this too, he gets to the certain part of the hell, or whatever hell that's created for yourself. He starts realizing, though, that Albert, is more than who he seems to as well. And he starts getting this image back in his head when he sees his child, though, when he's talking to his child at this place when it's raining outside. You know, he's like, hey, Ian, you can do more. I expect you to do more. You need to try harder, son. And he's seeing this in a flashback, though. But then when he realizes, though, is he tells his son, though, I say, hey, if I was with anybody, I would go through hell with anyone. You know what I'm saying? And then he starts realizing, though, that Cuban Gooding Jr. character is his son. You know? And it really just like bam, it hits him. You're like, wow, it's like, and when you see that moment, though, in the movie, you're like it just catches for like, wow. And you realize, how can people who were in the physical form be able to change who they are in the afterlife, though? Which I think is a really cool element, though. It's like, and I think that's what makes the movie such a great movie, because it shows just because we pass on, though, it doesn't mean we have to stay who we were in the physical form, that we can change who we are in the afterlife. If we want to be an Asian person, or a black person, or an elderly person, or even a dog or a cat or whatever, you know. And I think that's what makes it such a remarkably beautiful film, because of that reason, though. Because you see the different aspects and the different varieties in the film because of that reason. And then, of course, he takes her. And then, of course, he realizes that, you know, his son wants to come with them to save his wife and their mother. But the guy, Christopher Plummer character, tells him you can't do that, because why? Because now you're seeming vulnerable. You know, your attention is too much on what's going on with your son than trying to save your wife. In order to be able to save her, you need to be able to completely focus all your attention on her to be able to save her. And his son tells him, hey, do what you got to do, Dad. You know, get mom back. So basically, he goes into this journey to go get his wife back, though. And then, of course, along the way, when he gets to the place, though, of course, it's very dark. It's very cloudy there. He sees like this house that him and his wife created, but it's much different. It's all crumbling, it's fading, it's falling apart right in front of him, though. And Christopher Plummer character is telling him, when you go in there in that house, you know, you can't just go in there You have to find a different method, a different way to be able to save her, to connect to her. That's going to make her realize that she is in her own hell, and to be able to pull her out of it, you know. And it's like that stuff. But it also is along the way to it too. If you do this though, you can end up losing yourself when you're in there too with her. So you have to be very careful when you're doing this. But what he doesn't realize though, the guy who's helping him, Christopher Plummer, was telling him this though, is the doctor who he grew up and idolized with in the physical world, who he idolized, who he looked up to, and who he aspired to be. And he was probably the only person he ever listened to, you know, when he was a doctor. And it's really cool because you really get to see that, you know, that even though we've passed on into the afterlife, you know, that we have the ability to change who we are, what we look like, you know, to make it more, I guess, comprehensive to that person, though, to make them maybe feel more comfortable, maybe more safer. Because I think sometimes if we go back to the person they were in the physical form, though, we might not be able to relate to them as much in the afterlife, you know. And I think that's what really shows you that different kind of, I would say, what different dimension kind of, I think, though.
Yeah.
As well, which I also think it makes it even more fascinating. So then he goes in the house, and he's basically trying to save his wife. But when he realizes his wife is very lost. She doesn't realize any more reality anymore. In her reality, everyone's gone. Everyone's disappeared. You know, she had a wife, she had a husband and kids who just disappeared, and they're gone.
And she doesn't realize she's dead.
And she doesn't even realize she's dead anymore. She doesn't even realize at come to terms what she had done in her life. You know, she doesn't realize that her committing suicide, that she basically created her own hell for herself, though, that she can't seem to escape or even realize that she's in. And it's up to him to pull her out of it, though. And it's such a beautiful moment because he's doing everything he's trying to bring his wife back to reality. But he realized the only way to be able to bring her back to reality is to realize to just be with her, you know. And I think I show that in the flashback in the movie, though, when their children die, though, because later on, after their children dies, they show her in a psychiatric ward, and he's basically trying to tell his wife, you know, that we have to come to a conclusion, a decision, though. Are we going to be able to move on, or we're going to have to step away from each other? We can't keep doing this anymore to each other, you know. And he realized the only way to be able to help her is just to be with her, you know, because he always felt when he was there, he wasn't always completely, always all the way there for her, like he should have been, you know. And I know that can be a really difficult concept to understand. Because you feel like I'm there with that person, but am I really being there all the way with them completely, 100%, without any doubts or any reservations, you know? And I think he realized that at that moment that the only way to be able to save her was to truly be there with her and to surrender and let go and just be one with her. And that would be the only way to be able to save her. And it's like that, which I think it's a really great moment in the movie because it really just shows you that, you know, just because we are so connected to somebody in the physical life doesn't mean in the afterlife it's going to be as easy to be able to reconnect them again and bring them back from their own reality that they created for themselves, you know. And I think also what makes it such a beautiful movie too as well is show you different ways how we all deal with grief, you know. It shows you how his wife is dealing with the grief when he's gone and their children are gone. You know, it shows you how he dealt with the grief and how he saw it and how he felt about it, you know. And also it's children too, how the children see about it too as well, you know what I'm saying? You know.
Well, I think, you know, what you really kind of, it's a movie that has a lot of different concepts, and it has a lot of different views. You know, you really see a family who's struggling with losing their children, and then you see that, you know, how they're both grieving is very different from one another.
Absolutely.
The way that Robin Williams' character deals with grief is by really kind of, you know, keep going, move forward. We have to keep, you know, keep our focus on our jobs. We have to keep investing time in trying to kind of, in a way, forget about these children and move on with our lives. And then the way that his wife deals with the grieving process is really complete meltdown. She really goes into self-victimization. She starts to hurt herself. She eventually ends up in a mental institution because she's suicidal and so on and so forth. And so in a way, during that lifetime, you really see them struggle. That although the fact that they are soulmates, you see them struggle how to connect while going through this grief. And so he actually then leaves Earth sooner than they can actually overcome this grief, which ends up with her being completely alone. And the only thing that really kept her in that lifetime was him, is now being stripped away from her as well. And you know, eventually she turns to suicide because she feels she has nothing to live for. And you know, but what's beautiful is that you can see that at the end of the movie, where he meets her in her own created hell, he finally gets to that point where he understands that he should have, in some way or form, have gone with her in that grieving process instead of trying to reject it. And so he kind of surrenders in that moment and says, you know what, if you can't get out of this, if I can't pull you out of this hell, then I will join you in that hell. And it's that surrendering process that actually changes something inside of her and actually pulls her out of that hell, which is a beautiful thing to see. He finally finds her grief and is able to kind of connect with it on her level. And it's just that actually sparked you know, her being rescued in a way from hell. You know, this is a movie. This is one of my favorite movies, especially when it comes to the spiritual. But it is a movie that you see it the first time. I mean, there's so many spiritual aspects thrown at you. You really have to see it a few times in order to pick up on all the little details that they put in there. Sometimes it's just one sentence that explains a whole lot of spirituality.
Very true.
You know, Cuba Gooding Jr., you know, has this sentence where he says, you know, when Chris dies, he's not in that, he's kind of in denial. He doesn't want to recognize that he's dead. So what happens is you see Chris visiting his funeral and visiting, you know, the wake and all of that. But the spirit that's there to help him to kind of say, hey, it's time to go home, buddy. He can't see him properly. He's seeing him very fuzzy. He's just seeing little glimpses of him. And what Cuba Gooding Jr. says in that time, he says, you'll see me when you're ready to accept. That's it. Just one sentence. And it holds so much spiritual truth. We see what we want to see. We see what we allow us to see. And he wasn't ready to accept that he had died. Therefore, he couldn't see the help that was there. He couldn't see the other person who is in the afterlife clearly yet. You know, and so once he accepted that his time was done there, because he kept hanging around his wife, didn't he? He kept hanging around. I'm never going to leave you. I'm always going to be here. But it actually hurt her more by him sticking around than it did from him transitioning. And so it finally got to that point where he realized that him being around her all the time actually made it more painful for her. And so eventually he accepts that he's crossed over, that it's time for him to leave that earthly plane. And the moment he does it, he sees Cuba Gooding Jr. in his full glory. Another great thing is, you know, Cuba Gooding Jr. was originally his son, but he comes forward in the form of Albert, which was a doctor that Chris knew, you know, that he grew up with, a doctor that Chris trusted. And then, you know, the first time he sees his daughter, he doesn't realize it's his daughter, but he sees, like you said, he sees that Asian girl, you know, Leona, and she just kind of guides him around, and he has no idea that those are his children. Now, they explain it in one sentence again, the whole movie. You know, again, they explain it in one sentence. So you got to really pay attention when you're watching this movie. And so, you know, why was the reason why he couldn't see his children right away? Why didn't they present themselves to him as, hey, Dad, it's me? I think it's because he wasn't ready. He wasn't ready yet to be able to see his children, because he wasn't ready, because he was still holding on to the attachment of him being, you know,
with his wife. He was still too much attached to her, though. He wasn't really fully, completely letting go all the way.
In a way. First of all, you have to remember that his way of dealing with the grief of his children was to push the memory away of his children.
Yeah.
He started to focus on his wife and his wife alone. So when he transitioned, he really only thought of his wife. He was worried about his wife, and he really didn't think of his children until the memory started coming back. That is one aspect. But if you listen closely to what Cuba Gooding Jr. says, he says the reason they step forward in a different form is because when you come from a human lifetime, you still very much hold on to the idea that you're the adults and they're the children. Therefore, they don't know as much as you do. And Chris, played by Robin Williams in this movie, was a control freak.
Very much so.
Absolute control freak in this lifetime. So if they would have presented themselves as his son and daughter, they would have never been able to guide him through the process of transitioning, through the process of coming into and creating his own heaven. He would have never been, he would have never listened to the advice of his own children, because in his lifetime, he was always trying to be the controlling factor on his children. So when they come in, when Cuba Gooding Jr. comes in as Albert, that was a man in his lifetime that he always listened to and that he always respected. So when that character stepped forward, he was going to listen to Albert because he always did in another lifetime. So that is the reason why, because I know a lot of people getting confused about that. Why didn't they just come up and say, Dad, it's me? Because he wasn't ready to receive guidance and help from what he considers to be children who know less than he does. So there's a reason why, and I think that's great that they show that in the movie, because it shows that as a spirit, you can take on any form that you choose to. You can present yourself to a person in any form or shape that they want to. And so when I do readings and spirits or angels connect to us, they will present themselves in a way that they know I'm comfortable with, or that person will be comfortable with. But I have had spiritual guides who step forward as a dog or as a horse or an animal. That doesn't mean that they're solely an animal. It doesn't mean that you knew them as an animal, but it means that that's how they want to project themselves to you, because it's got some kind of comfort. Maybe you love horses. Maybe you trust only animals. They will come to you in a way that is comfortable for you. And so I think that was greatly shown in that movie.
Absolutely, I think so. But I think the part what I like about too is when he realizes it's finally his daughter, though, because his daughter tells him in the movie, though, the reason why I wanted to appear like this to you, because you were on a plane and you saw this girl who was an Asian, though. Her name was Leona. And she said the Asian women are one of the most beautiful women that you've seen, though.
Yeah, and she saw her dad look up to this air hostess. And so that's why she chose that form, because she wanted her father to look at her that way.
Exactly.
Because despite the fact that he loved his children very much, he was very critical of them.
Yeah, he was.
And they always tried to live up to his expectations. And so that kind of damaged the relationship in a way. And so that's why they came forward in another form. So until he was ready to remember his children, but also connect to what had happened. And that's kind of, and the thing is, when we cross over, we get a life review. In a way, they show that a little bit here by these memories that pop back into his mind as he goes through heaven.
To the journey,
According to my team, you actually go into kind of a space that's not really a space, and there is your council. Everybody has a council.
That's true.
That's not your spiritual team, okay? Your spiritual team takes you to the council, and the council is entities who actually observe your entire journey, who just observes. That's all they do.
I think I've experienced that, though. I've experienced myself, though.
Yeah, he's experienced that in a meditation. But and so really it is about revisiting your entire journey, but looking at it from all different angles and perspectives. This movie kind of touches on that a little bit, where you see him go into his mind, and as he's going through things, where you really see him receive memories of his children, but all of a sudden he's seeing it from a different angle, and he's starting to see what he couldn't see when he was doing it, you know, when he was at the moment in his life. And that's kind of a beautiful thing to see. I think
it is.
Another beautiful thing.
Well, I think one of the things I really like about the movies too is always is that when you see him going through this journey with Albert and the doctor too, that, you know, Crystal Plummer's character as well. What you really get to see though is the different layers. You know, you get to see, like, you know, the aspect of, you know, how learn to accept things for what they are supposed to be. You know, learning to be able to understand, to be able to let go. You know, to be able to fully realize that, hey, there are no limitations to what you can do though in your life. You know, whether it be in the physical form or the afterlife. You know, it's all about, you know, just trusting what you feel and your belief system. You know, and it really shows you your belief system is really important though as well too though. Yeah. Because the reason he sees that the house and the painting though, because that's where him and his wife wanted to go to when they passed on. They wanted to be there in the afterlife with it in the house together. You know, but it comes out as a painting at first, but then eventually he lets go of the painting version of it, because that's what he held on to. It was his belief system. But then when he started realizing, hey, that I have the ability to be able to change that and basically make it more realistic, you know.
Well, I think what Gerald is trying to say is that you see very clearly, you know, Eric and the rest of my team always says the same thing. How you transition and where you go to flows out of your own creation, flows out of how you see or are influenced by what's going on in your human lifetime. So your heaven is an expression of your consciousness, of your belief system. And so you see him, his heaven is a painting of his wife.
Yeah, it's true.
Which is kind of funny to see him all the paint.
I think it's kind of cool, especially when you try to drink the coffee and the coffee.
He's trying to drink coffee, but it's just acrylic paint. And Albert's going, "Come on, your mind makes it real."
Exactly.
So he's teaching him, and that truly happens as well, people.
Yeah, it does.
You know, is that guidance. You will have a person or an entity, it's not a person, but an entity, a soul, who is going to help you and coach you through you know, letting go of the human thinking, letting go of the human restrictive mind, and starting to get reconnected. It's really remembering, because you've done this before plenty of times.
That's true.
It's about remembering that you're living now in a dimension where instant manifestation is possible, and they showed that very clearly in that movie, which I thought was another great thing of the movie. Absolutely. They show how the moment he thinks of something, it appears. Instant manifestation, but also creation of your own heaven. So many people, when they cross over, they will create with their mind their home that they grew up in, or, you know, a place that they really loved. Yeah. They will recreate that until they get to a point where they no longer need that kind of soothing, comforting kind of feel. You know, some souls want to hold on to that kind of human thing. But it does fade really quickly, and you see that here too. Eventually, they take him to different heavens, and it's a great thing that they show that, hey, look, this is my heaven, and this is my heaven. But what they also show very clearly in the movie is that you co-create. Yeah. Because if you listen to Albert, you know, Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character, again, one sentence. I'm telling you, this movie is all about the one-liners.
One-liners.
One sentence, he says, well, we are together now, so we are co-creating this. Yeah. So the moment souls come together in heaven, you guys are co-creating, just like here on earth. Same thing. Me and Gerald right now are co-creating this house. We believe that we live in this house, that we bought it, therefore we are co-creating it. If should we fall asleep right now, this house disappears. It is just a creation of our conscious mind. But that's a whole other ballgame. Check out my video on the illusion of time and space.
But I think what was really cool in the movie too is when you see him when he's passing on though, you know, his wife is in the physical form and he's trying to reach out to his wife to show him that he's still there though. And when she's trying to write his name on a piece of paper and you see how even though he's dead, though he's still connecting with him, but in a way she can still hear him, but not fully to the full extent that that she wants to hear him.
There's a beautiful part in the movie where, where what you just said shows very clearly. It's a part where the funeral is done and he's sitting with his wife and he's trying to touch her lips.
Yeah.
Okay. And she can't feel him physically. Okay. No. Spirits do that all the time. They try to touch you, and it won't be a physical feeling. Yeah, but it'll be like she probably felt a tingling.
Yeah.
Because when he did that, and you can see he's not even touching her, but when he's trying to touch her lips, she all of a sudden does this. So she felt something. But that's the thing. I think it's great they show that spirits do try to let their presence be known, but it's just not in a physical way. Yeah. But we do pick up on that thing. We just dismiss it. We just think, oh, it's a tingle or it's an itch or, and then they show that very clearly that we can have a connection. Now, what they do show in this movie is soulmates, which really are entities, souls who are very closely connected and who kind of come back in different incarnations usually as romantic, souls together or very closely relationships. But it is a movie, and so, it has to be entertaining as well. Of course. So when it comes to their explanation of soulmates, it's not 100% accurate. But soulmates can be, very close, that they can, if one's in the afterlife and one's on Earth, you can have that very close connection still. Yeah. And here they show that in the movie. That's kind of the way that they
romanticized a little bit. I think it's romanticized a little bit.
It's very romanticized. The whole soulmate thing is very romanticized, but they kind of represent that with a tree. Yeah. They're so connected. She paints a tree in a painting that that he made his heaven now, and all of a sudden this tree appears. Yeah. And he's like, cool. I've never seen that before. And then she fades the tree and he sees it fade away and he feels her pain. Spirits can feel everything we feel. So that is very accurate. Yeah. He feels her pain and but from a spiritual view, we usually, they don't respond to it the way that he does. They make it very dramatic. It's very dramatic. But, let's not go into nitpicking this movie. They have to entertain people. Well, one more thing I really want to get out there.
But another thing I want to get out there too is probably about the movies though too is I don't really like the one thing I think that pet peeve about the hell thing. That thing.
We're not agreeing with the hell part.
I'm not agreeing with the hell. I do agree with you. I do agree with the way he says that we kind of create our own hell. I do agree with that part, yes. But the one I don't agree with is that they basically they go to hell. And the whole thing with the suicide thing too.
They are in the movie, but again, keep in mind this is a movie for entertainment purposes. Okay. Yeah. In the movie, he kind of says there is no hell, but at the same time they show you a hell.
Hell, yeah.
Okay. So let's look into that a little bit. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So how can there not be a hell and then there's a hell? Because they kind of, in order to get to her hell, because the reason she ended up in a hell is not because she committed suicide, which is another thing I don't agree with in the movie.
I don't get that either, though.
He says all suicides go to a different hell.
I don't get it.
That's not true.
Yeah, that's not true.
Okay, many suicides end up in heaven.
That's true.
But then he explains a little bit more, and that's where the details is. Yeah. He says the reason she's in her own created hell is because her soul wasn't supposed to go home early, and a lot of suicides are part of a spiritual contract. Okay, they're supposed to go through suicide in order for the family and the friends to learn from that, and so on and so forth. So she decided to end her life earlier than her exit point that she had created before she was born. And because she cannot accept that she did that she didn't fulfill her journey, her completion, she kind of punishes herself, if you want to look at it that way.
What kind of is a punishment? basically she had a hard time accepting the fact though that her children and her husband were gone, and that she was basically all alone in her life though, and she felt like she had nothing to hold on to anymore.
Now he says it very clear in the movie. She cannot accept that she committed suicide. She cannot accept from herself that she wasn't strong enough to keep going.
But she also couldn't accept the fact that she was alone. So what she's doing is
she's punishing herself.
In a way, yeah,
she's punishing herself. Now let's look at the whole hell thing.
Yeah.
Okay, there is no hell. Okay.
Yeah.
Strip that out of your thing.
Yeah.
But there's a but. When our experience of the afterlife is an expression of our belief system.
That's very true.
I think that before she committed suicide, just having the thought of suicide, she thought, if I do this, I'm going to go to hell. I think it was part of her belief system. Therefore, she went to hell. Not because she had to, but because she created that for herself. Her belief system made that. Now, they do show kind of a collective hell in the movie, where you see all these souls. They're stuck
and the river too, though.
Then there's a river with all souls that are lost.
Absolutely,
That's it's not,
It's a little far-fetched. For me, it's a little far-fetched as far as.
It's not far-fetched.
It's not. Well, in the way it kind of is, in the way it kind of isn't, though. In my opinion.
Well, if you want to present hell, it's a perfect way to present it. It looks very scary and very, not very comfortable.
No.
But in reality, or at least that's what my spirit, and I don't claim to know all the answers. I can just tell you what my team says and what the thousands of spirits say that I've interviewed so far. And I've interviewed many people that committed suicide, and there's not one that went to hell, not one that I've experienced. So, but since we can co-create, this is the explanation I'm going to give to this movie. Okay, to this movie's hell. There is no hell, but you can create your own hell and experience it for a very short time. What you do see in the movie is that your loved ones will try and reach out and pull you out of it.
Yeah, that's true.
He went over there to try and pull her out.
Yeah.
In reality, when you make your own hell and you don't understand or realize that you're creating this own hell, your spiritual team, your friends, your family, everybody who loves you, who is close to you, will try and make it clear to you that, hey, you're creating this yourself.
Yeah.
Stop it. Hello, we're right here. All you got to do is turn this way.
Well, I think it's a beautiful.
Show that.
I think it's a beautiful part with Cuba Gooding. When he said to Cuba Gooding Jr. said you ain't seen nothing yet, Chief, though, and stuff like that. Because Cuba Gooding tells us there's no way these two guys don't come back because they don't realize it.
Because they don't. Yeah, but. In the movie, they make it very dramatic and they say, oh, nobody's ever gone in there to draw somebody back. That's not accurate. Your team will work on getting you out of there nonstop until you realize that I'm thinking this and it's happening. I'm thinking flames, I see flames. I'm thinking this. Until you realize, they're going to try whatever they can to kind of infiltrate into your hell. The problem is you're pushing them out. When you're stuck in there, you push them out. So they have to be very kind of tricky to try and get something out of there.
I think, you need a little nudge, though.
They're going to be there. And, even your experience of hell will be very short. If you truly believe you're going to hell, it's going to be very short. But let's go back to that big hell where they show all these lost souls.
Yeah.
The only explanation that I could give to that, because I don't believe that that is happening in heaven or anywhere in the higher realms, but we can co-create here on earth. We're creating this world, this universe. Our understanding of this world and universe is a co-creation of every soul that's incarnated in this frequency, because earth is not really a place, it's a frequency. It's a dimension, but let's not go into that. I could talk forever if we talk about that stuff. But that also means that we can co-create in heaven.
That's true.
In the afterlife.
And I think that's a beautiful thing it shows in the movie really well. I think it shows really well in the movie, though, how he's able to change the environments, how he's able to go to different places, though. But the one thing I think really bothered is Cuba Gooding says in the movie, though, is that he had to go to work somewhere, that he couldn't be there for. That part
we'll talk about that in a minute.
That part I didn't really particularly like.
Let's go back to the co-creation. No, but you're getting off topic. Now you're getting off topic. You're getting off topic. Let's first, we need to explain the co-creation. So if Eric talks about in heaven, they co-create libraries, cities, parks, you know, things like that.
Which is really cool, I think.
Which is really cool. You can co-create things in heaven.
I like a part with the library thing.
If you can co-create in heaven, then you can also co-create a hell. So if there are many people out there who truly believe they're going to hell with the, I mean, from the deepest of their core being, truly think that hell exists, then they can co-create a temporary hell. And I'm thinking that what they're showing here, the only explanation I can give it is that those people, and there's millions of people all over the world who truly believe they're going to hell.
Yeah.
Now, and all those people who died, they can co-create a temporary hell for them to reside in. And I think that's what they kind of showed, all these souls together in one place being kind of suffering.
Kind of stuck, basically.
But, you know, you have people who create their individual hell and they're in there alone.
Yeah.
And you will have people who truly believe that hell is filled with people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Party.
And so when they transition and they believe they're going to that hell where everybody's all in there together, they're going to experience that. It's going to be temporarily because there is no hell. It's all in the mind.
That's very true.
But I think that in this movie they show this kind of co-creation of hell.
Yeah.
And it's the only explanation that I could give to it that would make sense from what the spirits have told me. But what you were saying was...
Thanks a lot.
What were you talking about?
No, I forgot.
Because you were going off track. Okay, we got the co-creation part then. This is so fun, isn't it? Husband and wife arguing about stuff. We do this all the time. Every time we watch a movie, we're like, no, this is how it is.
No, yeah, exactly. We have this debate all the time, though. But I think the part where I was talking about, what was I talking about? Now you made me lose my
What were we talking about, people? Was anybody paying attention out there?
Well, no, it was like, what was he talking about, though? Now I forgot. Now I'm train of thought now. Thank you.
Well, I don't know. We were talking about co-creation of hell.
Yeah.
Anyway, it might come back to us.
Yeah.
You know, either way, you know, I think this is a great movie, and it has a lot of spiritual truth in it, although it is very romanticized, and it is very much, you know, it needs to be entertaining.
Yeah.
But when you can see through certain things and you understand the spiritual process of dying and creating heaven and so on and so forth, then this is a great movie where they show all these little bits and pieces that you go, yep, that's correct, that's correct.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're kind of going, it was something about what he said. What was it? I almost had it when I was talking. It came back just a second there. There's something that you didn't agree with that he said. That Cuba Gooding Jr. said, I think.
He says a lot of things in the movie.
He does say a lot of things in the movie.
Well, he was talking about the whole thing with they couldn't bring the suicide thing back, though, as well. We talked about that part.
Yeah.
But there's
just so much in this movie. This is really a movie that holds a lot of spiritual wisdom.
That's why I said the movie has a lot of depth and it has a lot of variety in the movie. It really shows you the complexity of the spiritual.
Oh, I know what you were talking about. Okay, there's a part of the movie where Cuba Gooding Jr. says, "I'm sorry I couldn't be here for you because I had to go somewhere else for a work."
Exactly.
Now that's not accurate because
no.
they can be in different places all at the same time.
Because I can explain this really well because I have experienced it because I was shown this how to do it though. How you can be in different places at one time though. I've actually experienced this during my meditations and during some of my healings as well too though. So that part is incorrect, though, actually. That part is very inaccurate. And I don't know why they put that part in the movie. Like, wait a minute here. You know, you can have the ability to make worlds of that, but you can't be in the same place at different places at the same time. That part didn't agree with in the movie, though. I thought that part was like, that's very inaccurate. That's probably one part I probably didn't like about the film was that part right there. Because I thought that was very incorrect at all. At least from my point of view.
And another great thing that they do show is that when you're in the afterlife, you can choose to have kind of a certain job. And so Cuba Gooding Jr. chose to be a guide for people, for lost souls.
Yeah, lost souls.
And his daughter was working with animals and so on and so forth. So in a way that is accurate, you know, it's not really a job, but it is pretty accurate. Victoria asks, So then if this is a creation of our minds, is the other side more real and true? So yes, life is a creation of our mind. We're not really here. Our truest self is our higher self, always resides at home, which is in the heavenly realms, which is a higher vibration. And she is basically, she or he or it, they don't have a gender really.
Not really, no.
Is projecting a sliver of her consciousness into a human body. Kind of like, if you look at my video all about incarnation, I explain it over there. Kind of like the movie Avatar.
Yeah.
Your higher self is the man who's paralyzed, who puts himself in a booth.
Yeah.
Okay. And when he puts himself in that booth, he transfers a part of his consciousness into a blue body.
Yeah.
Okay. A blue vessel. And so he can control that vessel, that avatar, with his conscious mind and go through that and go through life as that avatar. Yeah. That's how human life is. We're just the avatar. This is the avatar that's being.
But I also think they show really well in Ghost at the end of the movie too. When you see Patrick when he died, though, you see all these figures come out. They're not really people, but they look like kind of figures.
Well, we're not talking about ghosts here.
But
I'm trying to explain. So in the afterlife, when we just transition, we use the same kind of creation. Yeah. We use the same. Why? Because we have to kind of
feel comfortable with it.
Feel comfortable with that transitioning. So because we'll hold on to, we truly identify with this human self. This is who we are. It's not. This is just one of many characters that we're playing.
I'm a bunch of characters anyway.
Yeah, we have thousands of lives going on all over the place. This is just one of the many characters that we create to experience certain things. But when we transition, that consciousness is still separated from the higher self because it's at a different frequency. Well, this is where it gets complicated.
Yeah, it doesn't complicate that part.
You can, in heaven, in the heavenly realms, there's millions and millions of different frequencies of existence, millions and millions of different dimensions.
Yeah.
Okay, it's an eternal kind of thing. It's an infinite thing. So your human consciousness, it will always exist in a specific frequency, but at a certain point in time, when you kind of let go of being human, when you let go of everything else, you eventually join and merge back together with your entire soul, which is your whole soul or your higher self. But that's when it gets complicated. But how you make your heaven look like is still a creation of your mind. Yeah. But eventually that turns into reality.
Yeah.
That needs to create a human surroundings disappears, and then you actually see your true home. But again, it's a complicated thing.
But I think what I also like about the movie too is the end when you see the whole family come together and they reunite together though. The wife and the kids. I think what made a beautiful part of the movie too is that they decide, whether they want to go back or not too as well in the movie too at the end of the movie, Chris and his wife,
Yeah, they decide to reincarnate together again.
Exactly. Yeah.
And kind of do better.
Yeah, exactly.
Do better.
Do differently.
Do things differently. And that's also a beautiful thing. And that's
absolutely.
Very accurate. A lot of souls who are
connected to each other.
Who are very closely, and why are we connected to each other? Because our frequencies are very similar.
Yeah.
But, and so a lot of times the same souls from different higher selves, but the same souls will choose to reincarnate in kind of similar ways to try to do better than the previous time.
Yeah, which I think, which would make sense if you really think about it, because
it's just about changing stuff.
Well, it's about changing your perspective of how you see things, how you're doing things, though. What you could have done differently, maybe, and how you can make it better when you go back next time, though. Which I think makes it really interesting, though, as you see in the film, though, as well. And I think when I saw this movie, the first time, I cried. I cried. I think I cried like a bunch of times. When I was.
Shannon is asking what movie? What Dreams May Come. I gotta look on my phone. because I can't do it on the computer because it's just too hard. Anyway, you know, this, I mean, we're probably out talking your heads right now. You're probably going, shut up already. I could talk about this stuff all the time. But this is a really, it's a beautiful film. Robin Williams is amazing in it because, you know, we all know Robin for his comedies and you know, his sense of humor. But in this movie, he truly shows a different part of him. And every time I watch this movie, I feel like he's showing some of his real parts. Yeah, you know, I think so too. Humor for him was a way, and I've talked to him many times, and humor was a way to hide all the insecurities and all the stuff that was going inside. Yeah. But I feel like in this movie, you really see he taps into that.
You really see it very clearly, I think. Yeah. You see him when he gets mad sometimes. Like we tell him, like, you ain't seen nothing yet, Chief. It's like that stuff. When you see him, when he's talking to his wife, when he's trying to pull her out of her own reality to bring him back to her, you know, I think you really see that layer for him though as well. And I think what makes him, movie so great though is that you get to see a lot of different variety from Robin Williams in this movie though. You get to see a little bit of his humor, you get to see a little bit of his sadness, his anger, his pain. You know, I think it really just shows a really great versatile performance by him in this film though as well too though. And I think Cuba Gooding Jr. is really great in the movie too as well. I think he gives a really good performance as well too.
He does, and it's just great to see, you know, in a way how heaven works, and you know how you know what's really great about the movie too is the moment he dies, they show the truth, and they show that there's no suffering. No. He doesn't, you know, you get yanked out. Yeah, it does. You get yanked out of your body before that car even hit him. And that's reality. That is true. That is true. I've experienced that. I was yanked out of my body before I was supposed to have a car accident. They jumped in and kind of led me off so I could talk. I could continue to help everyone here. Otherwise, I think I would have died in that accident. Me and my mom are very convinced. Yeah. It would have been impossible. And what happened to my car is, I mean, it's like, I don't even know. I'm missing like 10 minutes of my life. I have no memory whatsoever on what happened to my car and how it stopped, and it's just a weird place. You'll probably see it later on. But that's true. They do show that in the movie, how he sees the car coming, and all of a sudden, boom, he's floating above his body. Yeah. He sees his body, and he sees that they're working on it, and he doesn't die right away. No, he goes into the hospital, and he's floating above the hospital bed, and he's like, am I dead? Am I not dead? What's going on? Exactly. You know, and then you hear, beep, you hear that he actually, his body gives up, and all of a sudden, he's somewhere else. All of a sudden, he's in a different location. Yeah. That's really how it works. You know, don't ever fear dying, because you're not going to feel it. You get yanked out before you ever get hit. So even if you're in the most horrible car accident, I can guarantee you were already out of that body before that body gets hit. So dying is not painful. They show that very clearly in that movie. I think that's a good part. But also they show how you kind of hang out at first. You're kind of not, you don't always, some people will get, you know, they go straight home. Point, you know, they're like, I'm out of here. But some people really, truly choose to kind of stick around, and that's what he did. He didn't want to acknowledge he was 100% dead. He was just kind of like, well, I'm still here. Because he believed, you know, he was a doctor. Well, that's normal. So he's a man of science, and he believed that if you die, you know, there might not be something. I think he truly believed in something. Yeah, I think so. But I think to some degree, I think he did. To some degree, he did. Otherwise, he would have just experienced blank, just blackness. Yeah. But you kind of see that, you know, it's, you choose when you go all the way. Yeah. You can choose to stay on Earth. You can choose to linger on. You can choose, you know, to hang out as long as you want. And that's what Cuba Gooding Jr. says, when you're ready, then you'll see. Yeah, because I think basically we're trying to, basically, no one can tell you when you're ready. Only you can tell yourself when you are ready. Yeah, and they won't force you. When you're ready to experience certain things, or when you're ready to be able to let go and be able to fully grasp and understand everything that's going on, though, so you can evolve, so you can grow, so you can continue to keep evolving
through everything like that stuff. And you really see that in the movie really well though too. You see the involvement. You see when you see them vaguely at first though, and then he starts willing to let go a little bit more, and then he starts realizing that I can change my environment. I can start seeing my kids. You know what I'm saying? I think those layers really show you really well in the movie though too as well, how it kind of grows and evolves through it.
Phil says, I wonder what the point is having these jobs in heaven if we keep reincarnating all the time. Hardly a reliable employee. Well, your character as Phil will always stay in heaven.
You always stay Phil.
Yeah, it's hard to explain, okay? It really is. Eric always says it's impossible to fully understand everything from a human perspective.
It is.
But your incarnations are you, but from your higher self. They're not Phil.
No.
They are Phil and they're not Phil. So Phil will always be somewhere in a frequency in the heavenly realms when you go home. But your other selves are part of that higher frequency, that higher soul that's just putting a piece of its essence into the body. So it's hard to understand. It's hard to understand because you are your higher self, but at the same time, you also have the Phil consciousness, which is in a different frequency, but at the same time, you're one and the same character. So therefore, it makes it complicated. So you are a very reliable employee. However, jobs there are not what we call jobs here. It is just a choice. 9 to 5. No, it is a free will choice to help others, not just because it's your job, but because you want to experience how it feels like to help souls who have just transitioned, for example, or to help souls on earth. It is a free will choice. It's not really a job. There are no contracts. You're not getting paid. No. It is really a choice to learn in the heavenly realms from aiding people on earth, for example, or in other locations, or animals, or whatever it is, or souls that are just coming in. There's no conditions attached to it. It's not a job, but you know, it's just like Eric.
Get your suitcase, honey. Get your job.
It's like Eric.
Go to your 9 to 5. Punch your time clock.
No, not like that. It's not the 9 to 5 movie. But it's like Eric. He chooses to be a guide. It's just like you have a team of guides. That's their job, and it's not really their job, but they just want to help you and do it because you requested to assist them, and therefore they love helping you because they love you and they want to be there for you in whatever way or form they can, but at the same time, they are also learning and experiencing things. So it's a mutual exchange of energy and frequency and experience and learning possibilities. That's the job. So again, you're never going to fully understand heaven from this human perspective.
Not really, no.
It's just not possible.
It's too complex.
Because we see ourselves as individuals and we are just part of a collective.
Yeah.
We are not individuals, but we can have individual experiences. But again, we live in a universe that's frequency. It's all about frequency, and you have an unlimited, infinite amount of different frequencies of existence, so you can be in different places and all different frequencies all at the same time and still be part of a collective.
Yep.
Hard to comprehend, hard to understand. There's no time and space. It's hard to understand that you will continue to live on forever while being part of something bigger, being part of a collective of you as well. Complicated, you know. Don't try to figure it all out because it's just gonna rot your brain, and wait till you get home and you'll figure it out.
You know, your brain will start turning the mush afterwards. And what we got there?
If our higher self is always on the other side, how the heck can we decide when to go? Well, you have free will here on Earth.
It's really that free will choice. You basically make the choice, well, whether you decide, okay, I'm ready or I'm not ready. But truly, it's all up to you. Really.
Anybody can be channeled even if we're still alive. Yes, because you're channeling the higher self then. You're not really channeling the individual human consciousness.
Yeah, you're not.
You can channel, however, the higher self, which is not the same. You'll never get the same answers.
No.
When I trans-channel spirits, it is It is their higher self combined with their human self, with their human their human perception of life, human aspect of life. Because that way you get a better understanding of who they were as a human.
Yeah.
If you only connect to the higher self, you'll only get the very spiritual aspect or vision upon the earth, upon the incarnation, which is a very different perspective than the human experience.
That is very, very true. 100%.
Like I said, it gets complicated.
Yeah,
I understand it fully.
Yeah.
I feel it in my core being.
Yeah.
But boy, for some people, it's really hard to
comprehend sometimes. It is.
For me, it feels simple, but I think I came into this world with just I don't know, a different understanding of life. Like when I remember my entire life, when somebody died, I was never sad. I was never sad. I just figured, damn, they went home. They're good. They're in a good place.
Yeah.
I don't understand. For me, it's very hard to comprehend why people cry. Now, yes, I am sure that if I ever lost Gerald, or if I lose my children, I'd be crying and I'd be going through a grieving process because we're so close.
Yeah.
And we rely on each other to kind of go through this journey.
Yeah, I do.
But I remember when grandparents died, or an uncle died, or even one of my young schoolmates died. He died when he was 16, and they asked me to go to his funeral. I was like, I don't see the point of that. That's not where he is. I never shed a tear. I never. To me, they're I kind of envy them sometimes. I'm like, oh man, they got to go home. Get out of this misery. That's how I always kind of feel towards. So I don't know. I always have a different. I understand it, but from a human perspective, it's almost impossible to fully understand the complexity.
Yeah.
The complexity of the afterlife.
Oh,
it is not one location.
No.
It is an infinite of locations and all different frequencies, all different dimensions.
I can very much testify to this fact.
It's super, super complicated.
Any more questions?
Yeah, you can channel people who are alive too, but I wouldn't recommend it because you'll never get that human perspective that they had.
No.
You won't get that.
Any more questions we got here, guys?
Well, we're over an hour.
Yeah.
We're good. All right, guys. Well, thank you for watching.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Fun. This was a lot of fun, guys.
This was fun. So both of us, we recommend What Dreams May Come.
A beautiful movie.
Go see it.
Yeah, beautiful movie.
Use what we explained to kind of get a better understanding of it. If you've seen it before and you didn't fully get all the facts, I recommend after listening to us babble, rewatch it. You might get a different view on it.
Absolutely.
And look for the little details in what they're saying. This is a movie where you have to pay close attention to every line.
Yeah, it's very true. And you'll probably cry a lot during the movie because I cry
It's a crier.
It's a cry. I cried multiple times this week, guys. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this course and stuff like that. I enjoyed it very much, guys. Thank you for being with us. Thank you to my special guest, my lovely wife, for joining me on this special movie review, guys. Next week we'll come up with a new theme next week, guys, for the month of October. Not gonna tell you though. You'll find out tomorrow though what my new theme's gonna be, guys. You guys can check me out on my Facebook page, Gerald Movie Relish and stuff like that stuff. Also too, guys, if you guys were not here present during the time period during the live, you guys can still check it out afterwards and still comment afterwards as well too, guys, in case you're wondering. Guys, I hope you guys enjoy this and see you later. Bye-bye.